it would probably be the plains, just because it's more relaxed. I guess you could say I don't think I would ever consider storm chasing relaxing, but it's less physically and mentally draining, I guess, than chasing in Dixie Alley, for sure. But I mean, you go wherever the storms are at, though. So it is what it is. But yeah, it's from an actual like enjoyment of chasing. It's obviously the plains because you can actually see. There's nothing more frustrating than forecasting perfectly, being in the exact right spot in Dixie Alley, and a tornado being in the middle of a tree or middle of trees or in a road that you can't get to, or the road network's all messed up and you can't see anything and you put yourself in prime position. That's what's frustrating. Whereas in the plains, you know, obviously if you forecast and you're in the right spot, you'll be able to see it for quite some time and be able to track it.
All right, we've got a question from one of our Chaser Academy members. Kelly Rose wants to know, what is your recommendation for a cheap way to stream your storm chases? And if possible, would you help me set up? I'm not sure about that last part, Kelly. I guess you and Brad would have to barter offline. I'm not sure exactly what he accepts, credit card, MasterCard, checks. But I think you can answer the first part of that question, Brad. What is your
Yeah.
recommendation on a cheap way to stream storm chases? Obviously, that's what you're most known for, is your live streams. So perfect person to answer that question.
Right, absolutely. So, cheapest way to stream is just to get a cell phone, create a YouTube channel, and go for it. And that's by far the cheapest because you can pretty much everybody has a cell phone these days. So as long as you have a decent camera on that cell phone, take it with you, mount it on your dash. And then another thing about the cameras now these days, they've got a focus, or not a focus feature, but stabilizing feature. So that way, whenever you're driving, used to the older phones would like vibrate like crazy when you were driving, but it's kind of a stable image stabilization. So for the cheapest way that you could chase, I would probably just get you a cell phone and get you a YouTube channel, go on Facebook, TikTok, all that stuff. The way that I'm set up, it's a little bit different. I've got a dash camera. I've got a Sony AX53 camera, floating lens camera, that's mounted to my dash. And then I've got a rooftop camera that is a rugged cam PTZ camera that's up top. And then I've got a keypad that can control all that. I've got lav mics, and it's all connected to. I actually bought a gaming laptop for the better image with that, and it's all directly tied into there with multiple HDMI ports. So I've got a little TV remote, or not a TV remote, but just a remote that I can hit a different button and it switches all the different camera angles. I'm going to be adding a POV camera in the cabin where I can actually, if I'm having the pre-chase discussions that I'm talking about or anything like that, you can actually see me and things like that. So, but yeah, it's a little bit different, but just for simplicity purposes, if I were just starting out streaming, get you a phone, put it on there and let it ride.
Should probably unmute myself. Great answer, by the way, Brad. We've got Fall Apollo, who is also an Academy member, bumped to the front of the line. What chase day would you say ended up being crazier than you initially expected, and why?
Oh man. That is a great question. Crazier than I expected. So I've chased some pretty big events, but I don't think those would go. I don't. I've chased some of the most historical events that we've had in the past, 50 years. But those wouldn't necessarily be the most, they wouldn't sneak up on me as like, wow, that's an incredible chase that I wasn't expecting, because I don't think anybody went into April 27th saying, man, I'm not expecting too much from this. And, all of a sudden a generational outbreak happens. But man, that is a good question. Trying to think. There was one event. It was back. It was back in Texas. It was Happy Texas. It was an enhanced 10% day. It was a small risk area. There was a very small window of seeing tornadoes that day. But it sometimes when you're storm chasing, you're just kind of locked into a zone where it feels like every single storm that you're on, you're batting 1,000, you can't miss. And every single one of those produces, and that was kind of that day. We got on that storm, the EF3 tornado that went through Happy, Texas. We we actually ended up getting stuck in mud. Had to get a trailer, had to get a tractor pull us out of the mud, and then after we got out of the mud, we hosed it down and noticed, hey, there's another storm that's south of us. And we went down there and got it, and it was a tornado, and it produced right by the interstate. And then we went on to that night, seeing other tornadoes as well. So that one was one that I thought was going to have a small window of maybe like an hour or two that you had tornado producers, and it just seemed like we were on every single one of those storms, and it went on for longer than anticipated. So I would put that up there. I mean, it's obviously, there's a difference in the most memorable chases and then the ones that you aren't expecting to be the memorable chases, but that one would probably be up there. That I can think of off the top of my head. That's a good question.
We've got a lot of questions coming in from Chaser Academy members. Just a quick reminder, nudge, nudge. If you would like to also get your questions bumped to the front of the line, we have had some instances in these office hours in the past where we've had to cut people's questions, unfortunately, at the end. So there is a Chaser Academy channel on the left-hand side, or if you're on the mobile app, just go ahead and swipe over. You'll see it right there. All the details are going to be at that link. If you have any questions, feel free to drop us a line in the support channel. And also Anna, who is our Discord community manager. Want to give her a shout out. She is helping us keep the trains running on time here. I was trying for the first couple of weeks to actually gather up all the questions and speak with the coaches and everything, and that was just way too much stuff. So Anna has been absolutely awesome for the past couple of sessions. She's doing great tonight. And Anna, if you want to turn your mic on for a second and say hello to everyone, you are more than welcome to do so.
Oh, I was eating something. Hi, everyone.
Catch you off guard a little bit there?
Yeah, a little bit. Yeah, a little bit. But glad to be here. Nice to feel important.
Yep. We all appreciate you, Anna. I think you are synonymous with the Storm Chaser Coaching Discord server now, just because you are in here all the time. You were not lying to me when you said if we start a Discord server, you will absolutely baby and pamper and take care of this thing. So we all appreciate you very much. I think she went back to eating, ladies and gentlemen. So that is my cue to ask Brad.
I went back to working, excuse you.
Okay, sorry.
Gabe, I actually had one that I just thought of. Going back to that last question, I should have said this before, and I don't know why I didn't, because I don't want to admit when I make mistakes. But I did make a mistake one time, and it was a big mistake. Thankfully, I had a storm chasing partner that was with me for a trip. His name was Marcus Reynolds, and it was the Lincoln, Nebraska day. Lincoln, Nebraska, and Minden, Iowa. Probably one of the top 3 chases I've ever had in my life. It was enhanced risk. I was not keen on going to Nebraska. We were in Oklahoma that night, and I saw a tornado threat that was setting up near the Tulsa area, and it was going to be going into the southwest Missouri. And there was a tornado that was there, but thankfully, I had him to to call me and say, "Hey, listen, I'm never going to tell you." He was like, "Listen, I'm never going to tell you what to do, but we need to be in Nebraska for this." And I was like, "I don't know, man," because normally, when I get set on my target, I'm pretty stubborn like that. But if I wouldn't have listened to him, because I didn't think it was going to be that big of a deal, we would have missed probably the biggest intercept I've had in quite some time. That Lincoln, Nebraska tornado that crossed the interstate right in front of us, and then obviously the Minden EF3 tornado that happened in Iowa. So I think we ended up intercepting about 8 or 9 tornadoes in one day. Which was obviously pretty unheard of. But yeah, that one has to be the one that one takes the cake for the one that I wasn't expecting much to happen, considering I didn't even want to go there. I was going to target Tulsa, and ended up being probably one of the biggest outbreaks of the year.
Shout out to Marcus, by the way. Love that guy. I've interviewed him a couple times on the Chaser Chat podcast, and I'd love to work with him in the future. Just a really cool dude, and one of the maybe the most, if not definitely one of, if not the most prolific chasers in terms of just being there for every setup. I swear that guy is out there every single time there are storms.
And he's so knowledgeable about he remembers. It's insane the way that his brain works. Like, he can literally remember exactly like what a hodograph looked like back 10 years ago for one tornado, and he knows every single tornado that's ever. It's wild what he knows. So it's impressive. But I was definitely glad to have him in the driver's seat that day and let me navigate. And glad that I listened to him.
All right, we've got more questions streaming in from Chaser Academy members. Seymour4198 asks, "Hello, Brad. Always enjoy your streams. Just curious, what about the last setup made you want to go out and chase it?" And I'm guessing you probably mentioned or talked about this on your Twitter account or your Facebook page or whatnot. So, what specifically about the last setup made you actually decide to get out there?
There are a couple of things. Typically, so would that have necessarily would I have traveled a long distance to go chase an event like that? No, I'm not traveling to Oklahoma to chase an event like that. But it was literally within 3 hours of my home. So, and I hadn't chased in quite some time just because it's been so quiet. We didn't really have much of a tropical season this year, or any impactful tropical hurricanes to the United States. So there wasn't really much for me to chase with that. Thankfully, everything stayed out in the open water. And I saw a small window between, Clarksville, Tennessee, down to Nashville, that had a potential for producing a tornado or two, possibly. Plus, I had some new equipment that I was wanting to work on. My expectations were extremely low for that threat. I think was it last week that was. I think it was a slight risk last week. But it was good to get back out there, get back on the road again. Knock some rust off heading into the fall season. It's just been extremely quiet. And there hasn't been much, if anything, to chase. I know we've had a couple of winter events up, in the Great Lakes. But severe weather, we haven't really had anything in quite some time. So, just wanted to get out there and test out some new stuff.
Very good. Moving along here, Kazaki Senju has requested to speak. Brad, this will be your first chance to speak with one of our members, since we do offer that option for folks. So, Kazaki, you are up on the stage now, my friend.
Hey, first off, I just want to say, Brad, I am a big fan of your work and feel honored to be able to ask questions from the tornado sniffer himself.
Appreciate that.
I am, I do apologize for the background noise. I am actually in the middle of moving to Nebraska, which goes in line with my question. So I'm going to have a whole lot more time to be able to start chasing more. And for somebody who has so many years of experience, what would you recommend for somebody who is relatively new to solo chasing? What would you recommend for them to focus on and what skills to work on and improve?
Yeah, that's a great question. Great to meet you. The biggest thing for me when I first started chasing was my first chase ever was in Arkansas. We did see a tornado near Little Rock that day. But my second, I think I've told this before, but my second chase ever was April 27th, 2011. And that was a very humbling experience because it made me figure out very quick that I don't know anything about what I'm doing. And I just chased the biggest outbreak that we had in the past 40 years. So what I did was I jumped into learning more, not necessarily just about chasing, but about forecasting. So I surrounded myself with some of the biggest names in storm chasing, but also meteorological names as well, to learn how to forecast better. If you can forecast really well, it makes storm chasing so much easier because you can put yourself in a good position to be successful. That way, you're not in southeast Nebraska thinking there's going to be tornadoes, and then all of a sudden you have to drive an extra 4 hours to get to central Nebraska to be able to chase a possible tornado. You can put yourself, within, an hour of a possible setup. So I would definitely jump into that figure out how to forecast and it takes time, and you're gonna fail a lot, but you learn from those, and you always keep asking questions. Surround yourself with people that know what they're talking about, and say, listen, I was here. This is what I saw on models. Why did this not happen? Why did this not work? Why was I not in the right spot? And you will be wrong more times than you're right. And even when you figure out how to forecast perfectly, you're going to be wrong more times than you're going to be right. That's just how weather works. So don't be afraid to fail with that. Another thing would be get you a good radar map. Get you a good radar app. What I use is called WeatherWise. It's a free app that you can download. That's what I use a lot. But there are plenty out there. There's not necessarily just one or two that you could use. I've got multiple on my phone, but I've got WeatherWise pulled up because I need to show my location for that one. So, but definitely get you a good radar app. And then also, one thing that I always try to do is always try to figure out what the storm motion is and how fast, because that way can I catch up to that storm? If it's in Dixie Alley and it's 50 miles away from you and you're on the south side, but it's moving 60 miles per hour to the northeast, there's no way in hell that you're going to be able to catch that thing. So don't even try. Drop to the ones to the south. Now, if you're in Nebraska and there's a storm that's moving 20 miles an hour and you're 30 miles away, yeah, you can catch up to that. It'll take you some time, but you can catch up to it. And then also, what I always try to do is position myself for the best success that I can. You don't want to necessarily be on the tornado right when it drops. You want to be on the tornado when it's been actively producing, because it makes it easier to do that, and it's just easier to chase that way. So, what I've learned a lot is, if you've got a storm that's moving northeast, always position yourself to the northeast where it's moving towards. Don't like try to follow behind it necessarily, because if you on storms that are moving to the northeast, you don't want to be to the south to start out a chase day. Try to be, if you're going to miss, you want to miss on the north side, just because it makes it easier to get on those storms. It's a lot easier to catch up to it when it's moving towards you than it is when it's moving away from you. But those some that would be the biggest thing. Get you a good weather app. And then the biggest thing is just forecasting. I think that, and short range models make it a lot easier these days than it did, even just 10 years ago. When you have the HRRR model showing you a supercell that's popping up, directly over Birmingham, Alabama, and you just say, I'm going to go to Birmingham, Alabama, it makes it a little bit easier than it used to. But still, even then, you need to learn where the best environment is. Maybe there's a supercell that's going to pop up over Birmingham, Alabama, but it may not be in the best environment until it gets over, Gadsden or something like that. So, just jump into models, try to figure it out, learn how to fail, and then continue to learn. I still to this day mess up, but that's what I would say. If you can forecast really well, it's going to make storm chasing a lot easier for you.
And I don't want to be too shamelessly self-promoting here, but I'm guessing, Brad, if when you were first starting out back in 2011, if something like Storm Chaser coaching had existed, you might very well have become a member over here.
100%. Especially after 2011, after April 27th, when I nearly got hit by the Tuscaloosa tornado. I found out really quickly that I needed to learn some things. So that's what I did. Yeah, and I surrounded myself, and absolutely, I would have done that. It's a great product. You're learning from some of the biggest minds. You don't have to. People on here don't have to network anymore. You literally get me. You get Aaron Jack. You get Trey. You get like all these guys that have been doing this for so long, all in one spot. So yeah, it's. I would absolutely have taken advantage of this at a younger age.
Hell yeah! All right. No more self-promotion, I promise. So. Let's get to the next question from Fall Apollo, also Academy. These are going to be Academy members until the cows come home. You guys are doing great tonight. Good job, Academy members. So Fall Apollo asks, what's your biggest love-hate relationship with chasing? Hope this makes sense. I think I get your what you're putting down here, Fall Apollo. So what is it that you groan about inside of your mind, Brad, and you think, here we go again, but you just have to do it because you love the game too much?
Man, now we're let me see. There are a lot of love-hate things about storm chasing. One thing is night chasing. I love to night chase, but at the same time, like for example, when I intercepted the Mayfield the tornado that went into Mayfield, the EF4 tornado a while back, 2021. The only thing that I could think of was that was an insane intercept. But what if it would have happened during the day? Like, why couldn't I have seen that during the day? There's always some. I tend to nitpick things. It's like, there are tornadoes that have happened that I've seen that come through trees, and I get to see it for maybe 2 seconds, and then it's off, and I never get to see it again. That come through Dixie Alley, and it's like, man, what if I would have seen this tornado in the plains where there were no trees around, and I could have stayed with this thing? How cool would that have been? And obviously, the easy answer would be, like when you think you forecasted a great forecast and you put yourself in a great position, and all of a sudden there's a storm that pops up that's 100 miles away from you, and there's no way you can get to it. Or when probably one of the most frustrating things for me is whenever like you have one risk area, say you're in Oklahoma and you have one risk area in Tulsa that you think is a slam dunk. That's going to produce tornadoes. But then you have another risk area, say like in Lawton, Oklahoma, which there's no way you can transfer. There's no way you have to pick a target. Like there's no way. But the Lawton risk area has a chance of maybe one storm. But if there can be a storm, that thing could be an EF4. And you pick Tulsa because it's a slam dunk, because you don't want to sit there and you don't want a blue sky bust and you're up there and say you get a tornado near Tulsa, but it's like an EF1. And then you look back and you see that somebody took the risk. They went to Lawton, Oklahoma, and they got that big monster EF4 that storm actually happened. And that's one of the most frustrating things for me is whenever I do get a tornado and I look back and I'm like, man, it wasn't the tornado of the day though. That's kind of frustrating, but.
Tell you one of the most encouraging things for me, not to not to frame it at your expense, but whenever I hear that somebody like yourself still struggles with that sort of stuff, it really makes me excited to be into this hobby, because I know that no matter how much I think I know, it's just a never-ending climb when it comes to learning and refining your skills. Lather, rinse, repeat.
Yep. Yep.
And
absolutely.
if I want to add, as someone who's newer to chasing, it's kind of sobering to hear that I don't have to be panicking over every single little bit of information I'm getting, because I've only been on 2 chases, but I'd say one was pretty successful.
I learned something when a few years ago. There's so much information out there with modeling. You got the SPC outputs, you've got CSU, you've got the SPC, you got all this stuff that you could ingest. You've got NATO cast, you've got all this stuff that you can ingest that's telling you pulling you in so many different ways. There is something that somebody told me that stayed with me. There is such thing as too much information.
Oh yeah.
A lot of times, get on there, forecast, do what you think is right, and then just go with your gut on it. And that's really what I do, because there could be, on one setup, you may have 4 different target areas because of all the information that you're ingesting, and that can make it frustrating when really, in general, all you need to do is pick one, and then you can adjust from there.
And I think one of the things that I've learned just through various strategic hobbies that I've had over the years, I know Trey, when it comes to poker, would agree with this sentiment. Trading markets is something else that I have done quite a bit of. It's that you really have to cast your net as broadly as possible when you're first learning, because unless you learn how all the stuff works initially, you don't know what you can start to peel away or start to ignore. And I think you do get to a point where eventually you figure out you can ignore most things most of the time, but a lot of the learning process and gaining that expertise seems to be found in actually figuring out when and what to ignore. So that's sort of been the experience I've had with storm chasing and a lot of similar types of hobbies.
And it takes time. That takes time.
Yeah.
Because you're going to want to ingest everything and say, well, I need to be here for this. Well, this is showing this. Well, this is showing this. You learn over time what to pay attention to, what not to pay attention to, what times of there's some things that you need to. There are some models that are more important at certain times a year than other times. You have to know that maybe the HRRR doesn't do a good job of initiating supercells on the dry line in a low forcing event. You need to know that, and you won't know that immediately, but you learn it over time. and you just come to know that sometimes models aren't perfect, chasers aren't perfect, and sometimes things just happen.
Amen. Couldn't have said it better. Sometimes shit just happens.
Mm-hmm.
The Hemolizer 3000, Jen Kushner, Academy member, shout out. She asks, do people actually enjoy the Ohio River Valley? So I'm a bit offended. I live just southeast of Columbus, Ohio. I've enjoyed my time here greatly, but I'll throw it to you, Brad. Your opinion probably matters a little bit more than mine.
It's not my favorite area to chase. I tell you what, if we could go a little bit further north into like North Indiana and Northern Ohio, that would be ideal. But you know, that's that area right there is pretty tough to chase with the hills and trees and stuff like that. That's it's pretty difficult terrain to chase. I definitely would not advise that for an enjoyable chase. Like I said, to me,
it's like Dixie Alley. It's like Dixie Alley with none of the upside.
Right. Exactly. That's a great point. If it kind of goes back to what it was before. Do you prefer being in the plains or Dixie? It's if you're wanting a fun chase, go to Kansas. If you're wanting to be exhausted and all you want to do is go grab a Sonic cheeseburger and go pass out for 8 hours, then chase Dixie.
That doesn't sound like too bad of a time, actually. Before we move to the next question, though, Brad, have you ever actually chased in like Southern Ohio before? Has anything ever brought you up this way?
Yeah, I have.
Okay, I didn't know if you'd been like so Lancaster, Athens. Have you been in that area?
I probably have. I think the only state I've been over Ohio quite a bit, Indiana quite a bit, Kentucky. I don't think I've been to like Pennsylvania though. I think that's probably as far as I've gone.
That's crazy to me. Wow. So you really get out there. Whenever I think about chasing Southern Ohio, even though it's only like an hour to 2 hour drive for me, I just remember every other time I've chased Southern Ohio and I just stay home.
Yeah, it's not ideal. Like you have a lot of water, you've got a lot of trees, a lot of hills. It's not ideal, for sure. But yeah, I mean, like I said, you can't pick where the storms go, and you just kind of have to follow them there. But yeah, I mean, I've chased over into Wyoming and Montana and North South Dakota all the way over to Ohio. I typically draw the line. I don't chase east of Kentucky. I don't get into West Virginia. I'm not about those country roads. I'm staying away from West Virginia. Really, the East Coast is not ideal. Like Virginia, North Carolina, Maryland, that's just not great. The road networks are worse than Dixie Alley. It's just not ideal. But I mean, I will go over there, but it would have to be a pretty big setup for me to go, east of Kentucky.
Right on. Fall Apollo Academy member asks, what signs point you towards not chasing? So maybe any like broad high level stuff that historically your pattern recognition kicks in and you start to, the spidey sense starts to tingle and you say to yourself, I don't think the juice is going to be worth the squeeze here.
Yeah. So there's a certain distance that I will chase for certain things. What I typically look at is one storm mode. If it looks like it's going to be a big squall line or a big MCS, then I typically lean to not. If it looks like it's mainly going to be a damaging wind threat, especially I'm not going to travel to Kansas for an MCS where it's likely just going to be a damaging wind threat. That's not. But I will travel to the ends of the earth for a supercell event. Snow events, I'll travel for those. But just wind events, even like a derecho, like I would probably go to Iowa for a derecho, but I probably wouldn't enjoy it that much, just to be honest with you. It's not, and it's not to say that it's not fun for everybody. It's just not. Derechos and wind events aren't very fun for me, at least, because you travel that long of a distance. Like it takes 13 hours to get to Iowa from where I'm at. And I would travel 13 hours to Iowa we'll say it's a derecho. The way you play a derecho is a cat and mouse game. The derecho is sometimes moving at 70 miles an hour, so you have to be on an interstate pretty much or a highway. And you pretty much, I mean, you just have to stay in front of it. And if it ever catches up with you, your chase is done. There's really, like, you can see some really mean looking clouds, like dark clouds, some lightning, but you really can't experience it. And the way I think about duratio is it only lasts for about 15 minutes and then you're done. So I essentially, I just drove 13 hours to be overrun by a squall line for 15 minutes. And then I drive home. So that to me is not enjoyable. But if I will travel a long way, even if there is a small chance, because I've been burned so many times. Bennington, Kansas day, there was a 2% tornado risk. It produced an EF4 tornado that day. I think it was an EF4, maybe an EF3. I think it was an EF4. But even on those small days where it's like, well, could there be a tornado? If there could, or if there's a storm, there could be something big. I will travel for that. I don't care if I blue sky bust every single time. I would travel a long way, even if there's just a chance. You chase the environment too. A lot of times there may not be a storm, but if there's a storm in a certain environment, then you need to be there. So storms are never a guarantee, but that environment typically is.
Next up, we have Radar Shark WX. I chased on October 18th in Arkansas, and it kind of sucked because of the terrain. What do you think about Arkansas?
Northeast Arkansas and Eastern Arkansas. I've intercepted some of my best tornadoes there. The start of the Mayfield tornado happened northeast of Jonesboro, and we tracked that all the way from there all the way to the Mississippi River. East Arkansas, perfect. So flat, road network's great. Southeast Arkansas is great. Southwest Arkansas is awful. It is probably one of the worst terrains in the country. Over there near, I think it's Mena, something like that. I've chased that area. It's not enjoyable. You have a ton of hills, a ton of trees, and then there are some times where cell service can go on you. I was chasing that day. It was a while back. It was a couple years ago, and I literally went without cell service. And I wasn't just sitting in a spot. I was traveling around the whole time. I literally went without cell service for a solid hour. Didn't have anything. It said SOS mode for an hour. So I was flying blind that whole time. And then Northwest Arkansas, I would almost consider Northwest Arkansas unchaseable up in the Ozarks. There are some honey holes that you could get in, but anything, Fayetteville to the east, you have no roads. So you have one chance to intercept, so you better make it worth it. There's literally a town called Mountain Home, Mountain Home, Arkansas. Like, that's what you're chasing in. It's not Arkansas. It's a tale of two stories, man. It's not great. East side is perfect. So but I've intercepted some of the best tornadoes I've had in my career in Arkansas. So.
Yeah, I remember that was one of the first things I learned, is that there's this just absolute Garden of Eden-like area around the Mississippi River Delta that's hiding in the middle of Dixie Alley, that everybody is like, that's like the holy grail, is to get the perfect setup so that you, like, tornadoes reasonably slow. I know you're not going to get too slow in that area, but that you can just set up on your preferred side of the river and just chill and watch them come in.
Yeah, and it's interesting. Like, it always seems to. It's in the Delta area. It always seems like models want to show supercells in the Delta area, but very rarely does it actually ever happen. It either happens to the west of it or to the east of it, and then you get a magical setup where the rolling fork scenario happens, and you get it in the Delta, but the Mississippi River cuts you off. So, it's I love that area. There are obviously some challenges that come with it, because at some point you do have to pick: are you going to when are you going to cross the Mississippi River? There's only three. There are only three ways to get across in the whole state of Mississippi. So it's interesting. You have to do a lot of planning for it, but it's one of my favorite places to chase.
Oh yeah. Let's move on to the next question here. Fall Apollo Academy member, are there any signs or dangers that make you stop chasing on the spot?
The first one that comes to mind would be if you come across any sort of damage to residential areas or business areas, you stop whatever you're doing, you call it a day, and you're immediately in search and rescue mode. Now, once EMA gets there, once EMS gets there, you get out. You ask if you can help, and if there's any way, but I'm not a qualified person to be there. I'm not, I'm not going to be able to save somebody's life if I find somebody that's dying or something like that. So I get out because all I'm going to do is get in their way. But that's one thing. If you're one of the first, and typically we are one of the first people on the scene, you go in there, you make sure everybody's okay, everybody's accounted for. And you obviously call 911 and say, hey, I've got extensive damage, and if you have any fatalities, if you have any injuries, then you let them know, hey, we've got a big issue going on here. So that would be one. Would be where I would just call it a day and not chase. I've never called it a day and not chase just because of if it's nighttime. Nighttime used to, if you're just getting started, I would probably not be like me, just because nighttime is a little bit more. It's not a little bit more. It's a lot more difficult. You have to be a lot, especially in Dixie Alley. I wouldn't do it. But for me, that doesn't stop me from chasing. Some of my best tornadoes have happened at night. But that would probably be the only thing that would stop me from chasing, is if I came across damage that I knew I needed to check. Hey, I can see that this neighborhood got hit, or I can see that this house got hit, or there's a car that's damaged or something like that. Then I'll get out and help with that. But that's the only reason I would probably call it a chase.
All right, everyone, if you have any questions, or if you want to ask a question up on the stage, get that hand up at 8:50 Eastern time. Obviously, do the conversion wherever you happen to be located. We are going to cut off the questions, so get them in now if you would like to have them answered. We'll try to answer them all, as long as it's not like 50 questions that come in. Brad's got a family. He's got a job.
I will.
Not going to keep him
I'll
here.
hang out. I'll hang out with you guys as long as you want me to. We can even do a lightning round. I know I'm explaining all these questions quite a bit. We can even fire off some pretty quick.
Okay. Well, we'll see what it looks like if they decide to torture you or not. So you guys have 8 minutes to get those questions in, and then the cutoff occurs. And let's go ahead and go over here. Fall Apollo has another question. They ask, what are your top 5 stops while on the road chasing? I'm going to cut that down to 2, just because 5 would be a lot, and also we need to save some time. But give me 2 places that you absolutely love. Like there's going to be a chase in this area, and you're like, oh yeah, like I can't wait to go to Ma's Barbecue Shack, or yeah, this is a Buc-ee's steak, or something like that.
Yeah, there are a couple. One, if you're in Oklahoma, I always like to go to Brahms. The fast food joint out there. We don't have any of those around here. And then we also don't have any QuickTrips, and I'm a huge fan of QuickTrip. So whenever I'm out there, I always try to stop in and get, like one of their corn dogs or one of those chicken taquitos, and it's or a pizza or something like that. So that's probably a couple of them. Are those 2 would be Brahms and a QT.
All right, we have, and I think this is your first exposure to this username. We have some colorful members of the Chaser Academy. Weaponized Autism asks, how much of your chasing success do you relate to forecasting mechanics versus instincts, and which of those took longer to hone?
It took longer for the forecasting and mechanics and things like that. That takes a lot of time. But it also takes a lot of time to figure out that you don't just need to trust in the mechanics and the models and things like that, and you do need to trust your gut a lot. I would say that we always joke around about it, but I would honestly say storm chasing is a lot luck, because you got to think about it. A tornado isn't on the ground for very long, and they're not very big. I know everybody thinks about, even on April 27th, when you had 300 and something tornadoes. A lot of communities weren't ever hit. I mean, you got to think the biggest tornado in history is 2.6 miles wide. It's not very big when you think about it. I know from a tornado perspective, it's huge, but from a whole county perspective, it's not very big. So I mean that would probably be mine. I think it's probably what I was talking to one of my friends, and I think storm chasing, like if you forecast and everything like that, I think you have 20% success. I think 80% of it's luck and going with your gut and doing what you think's right.
Right on. Jen Kushner, the Hemalizer 3000, says or asks, is it better to make forecasts and fail but not chase them, or try chasing them but waste the time and gas? So I guess if I parse this correctly, would you rather make your own forecast and fail, or would you rather try chasing but waste your time and gas if it's somebody else's forecast? I think that's what she's asking.
I would always try to I would always feel worse if I trusted someone else and it didn't work out. Because at least at the end of the day, if I make the forecast and I fail, or if I make the forecast and I don't chase and something happens, or if I make the forecast and I do chase and nothing happens, there's only one person to blame, and that's me. So I would always do that. I would always go with your forecast and either chase or not chase.
All right. Next up, we have Follow Apollo. Once again, you are on fire today, my friend. This time, it's not good enough for them to type out their question. They want to come up on the stage. So, Follow Apollo, you are up here. What's going on?
Hello. Sorry for bugging you tonight with all the questions, Gabriel. Hello, Brad. So
Hey.
this one's a bit of a personal because I also chased this day and did not have a good chase day. When chasing large risk area days where most locations and most of the risk area does look good synoptically as well as environmentally, such as in my example.
Are you talking about the Arkansas risk this year?
No, I'm talking actually about the May 18th and May 19th
Okay.
Oklahoma, Kansas event.
Okay.
When it comes down to those side of tide days, what ends up being your final choices on determining location?
Can you repeat the question again? Sorry.
When chasing those large risk days where the most majority of the area looks good synoptically and environmentally, what ends up being your like final choices and final things you look at to determine a chase location?
That's a great question. Because oftentimes, especially, not in a high risk, you normally don't have a massive area, but you can have huge areas with enhanced risks and moderate risks. So that's a great question, because you can have sometimes where a whole state is covered up with a moderate risk and you don't know what to do. The biggest thing that I do is I look at models, I look at the environment. If it looks like the environment is pretty much the same across the board, then I look at observations, and then I'll look at photographs. Every morning, the National Weather Service, whether it be in Norman, whether it be in Memphis, whether it be in Birmingham, every single National Weather Service sends up weather balloons. So I go in there and I see, hey, there's Norman sent up a weather balloon, and it looks a lot more conducive than the one that's up in Wichita. So observations and satellite, mesoscale stuff. The day of the risk, once it gets past like 9-10 o'clock in the morning, I'll be honest with you, I don't look at models. At that point, I've turned models off. We're nowcasting. Like, I'm looking at observations, I'm looking at satellite, I'm looking at photographs, I'm looking at radar to see what we're looking at. Worst case scenario, just put yourself with the best road network too, because at that point you can get anywhere you want to pretty quick. But yeah, that would be my answer. Would be on those big risk area days, don't necessarily look at, well, it looks like there's a supercell here and here and here and here. Look at observations. Look at the mesoscale, the smaller stuff, and then if you aim small, you miss small, typically. So try to narrow it down to an area, within 100 miles, and go with that.
The road network advice is so crucial, by the way.
It is.
That was a big lesson for me when I first started, which is if you can leave your options open for as long as possible, a lot of stuff can happen as the day develops. But if you cut yourself off by putting yourself in a poor position, then even a setup that would otherwise be chaseable for you might quickly slip out of your grasp and you'll just be banging your head against the wall.
Right. And like I said, you don't have to be the first one on it. No one cares about the person that's first on it. Everybody cares about just getting it. So you don't have to be right there at it. So just give yourself the best chance, whether that means parking on I-40 and you're saying, I'm not sure if I'm going to go south towards Dallas or I'm going to go north towards Wichita. I can get there within 2.5 hours. So if it looks like Wichita's going to do something, I'm going to sit here till there's some times where I've put literally 200 miles in between. I literally park in the middle of what I think is going to be a big threat. And I'm like, well, it's either going to be north or it's going to be south. And I need to make a decision by 12 o'clock. And I will literally sit in the middle of that area until I know that I've got until 3 or 4 o'clock and I've got to make a decision and I've got 2.5 hour drive either way. And that's when you're just literally zoned in. Go get you some lunch and then zone in on satellite and surface observations.
Pick up an energy drink at QuickTrip as well.
There you go. That's right. That's right.
Kazaki, you are back up on the stage, my friend, Chaser Academy member. Ask away.
So my question is, I know you have chased a lot of events and seen a lot of tornadoes. If you potentially had to pick one, is there any that you would say comes closest to your favorite event or tornado that you have chased? And like, I guess, what set it apart from other events or tornadoes that you have seen that would put it so high up on your list?
So are you asking about like what my favorite event was that I chased?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
And
It's
kind of
easy.
like what set it apart. Sorry.
Okay. So this may could be a quick answer. It's April 27th, obviously. So I don't know if you want me to use that one or use a different one. I mean, there's nothing in the same stratosphere as that event. From a meteorological perspective, that was the best one that I will likely see for hopefully another few decades.
Why don't you tell us real quick what it was like almost getting ran over by the Tuscaloosa tornado?
Oh man. Yeah. So it was whenever you've had a big day, you've had a memorable day that's going to stay with you for the rest of your life. When you can remember every single thing about that day. I remember what I had for lunch that day. I remember that me and the person that I was chasing, my parents live in Coleman, Alabama. And I remember going to their house, getting an old map, like a paper map, and we were looking at where we could go. And I drew a black circle from Northport, just north of Tuscaloosa, just to the south. And I was like, that's where we need to go. I can guarantee you something's going to happen there. I literally remember that day, and we drove down there. We saw 2 tornadoes north of the original target, north of Northport in a town called Samantha, Alabama. And then I noticed, and this is before I was using like radar scope. This is before weather fronts. This is before WeatherWise, all that stuff. I was having to use the old pixelated NOAA weather radar. And it would only update like every 15 minutes. So
that's crazy.
Yeah, that's what I was using on my BlackBerry phone to chase with that day. So we intercepted that one. I had my girlfriend at the time, now ex-girlfriend, obviously I'm married now, but she had never been storm chasing before. Well, I've only been one time, and had I known what we were signing up for, there's no way in heck I would have brought her with me. But she lost it. She just, immediately lost it and was just crying up a storm. Was like, I can't do this. I can't do this. And I'm like, what do I need to, I can't like throw you in the trunk. I can't like drop you off on the side of the road. I was like, all right, well, just stop crying and get in the back of the car. And so she gets in the back of the car after the first tornadoes that we intercepted in Samantha. And I noticed on the little NOAA app, the NOAA website, that there was a pretty good storm that had a history of producing tornadoes that was already tornado warned, headed straight for the city of Tuscaloosa. So drove down there on the highway, and she's sitting in the back seat with the camera. She said that she wanted a video, so it was me driving, or no, it was my friend driving, and I was in the passenger seat navigating. And we get down there and we park on the 35th Street Bridge, which, if you know anything about the Tuscaloosa tornado, that is the exact path of where it went. We sat down there and we saw it forming, and I didn't know which way it was moving. I didn't know anything about storm chasing at this point. And we were sitting by this officer, and he said, "Guys, you need to get the F out of here. It's coming right this way." So I was like, "Yes, sir. We will get out of here." And we had to go up to a red light to make a U-turn to get back on the interstate. And my dumbass said, "We can't run this red light. There's a cop right behind us." And my friend that was that was driving said, "I'm running this effing red light. I don't care if I get a ticket." And when we turn around, you can actually, my ex-girlfriend at the time was terrified of tornadoes. And I look back and she has got her whole body out of the window trying to film this thing. And I'm like, "I thought you were scared of tornadoes this whole time." So she's videoing this. She's videoing this as we make this U-turn. And then we get back on the interstate, and the tornado was so close to us. I'm not lying when I say there's a picture out there that I posted on Twitter. I do it every year on April 27th of the tornado as we're driving away, and it takes up the full rear view mirror, or the rear view window. And as we're driving away on the interstate, I think it was Interstate 20 in Tuscaloosa, we see a UPS truck fall out of the sky and land on the interstate behind us. The wind was so strong that it was lifting the hood. We were in a small little Kia car. And it was literally lifting the hood, trying to pull us back into the tornado as we were driving away. And we ended up getting away from it, thankfully, and tracking it all the way from Tuscaloosa up to Birmingham, and then nearly getting hit by a power pole that one of those huge metal light fixtures that are on the interstates. It collapsed behind us, and nearly fell on top of our car. So that was quite the chase. I'll just leave it at that.
That is absolutely insane. Way more intense than I thought it was going to be, and then nice little coup de grace to finish it off with a UPS truck just falling out of the sky behind you. That's something that's going to stick with you forever, I'm sure.
Oh yeah.
The Hemolizer 3000, Jen Kushner, Academy member. Does anyone else feel like nighttime tornadoes are nightmare fuel, or does anyone enjoy chasing them? Brad, I know you answered this a little bit earlier already, but maybe just expand a little bit more on what your thoughts are on chasing nighttime setups.
They can definitely be. So I do enjoy them, but at the same time, you have to give them the respect that they deserve, because you can't see anything, especially if you're chasing nighttime in Dixie. If you're chasing nighttime in the plains, typically lightning will light it up so you can see it every few seconds or so. But in Dixie, it's extremely hard. So you have to give it, the distance and the respect that it deserves. But yeah, it can definitely be, one of those things where it's like, you easily start second guessing yourself, and you're like, "Hey, am I far enough away from this? Like, am I going to be in trouble if something happens?" Because it can move pretty quick, and it's already moving fast at you. So, and it gets to a point where it's like, okay, the tornado is 5 minutes away from me. I'm fine. Everything's fine. We're going to sit right here and we're going to intercept it. And then it gets to about the 30-second to a minute mark, and you've seen the radar image, you know how close it is, and then you think about, like, well, what if it makes a turn to the right a little bit? Am I really that's when you start to, get a little bit worried. But if you've given yourself that distance that you need to, you will be fine. But yeah, as far as, from just a civilian or somebody that's not storm chasing, just a person in the general public, nighttime tornadoes, I can imagine, can scare the living crap out of you, because you can't see them. If I can't see them and I'm out there actively chasing them, I can't imagine what people were thinking, the night of the Mayfield tornado. They can't see anything. So, and then all of a sudden your house is just gone. So, I mean, I can't imagine what it's like to go through a nighttime tornado. But yeah, it's definitely an eerie feeling. When you're sitting out there and there are no lights, you can hear the wind blowing. It's just, trees around you with lightning up the sky, but you can't see the cloud deck. It's very eerie. And you just hope that you've put yourself in a good position to not fail, because when you fail in this industry, you can be in a bad spot.
Very fitting that you would mention the Mayfield tornado, because as you were talking about your experience chasing nighttime setups, I was reminded of one of, if not maybe the most intense tornado story I've ever heard, which I'm not sure if it technically still qualifies as Dixie. You'd have to let me know, since you're the
Oh,
sheriff
absolutely,
of Dixie.
absolutely.
You're the
Kentucky is.
you're the you're okay, cool. I didn't know, since you're the
Yes.
sheriff of Dixie, I wanted to run it by you first. But
Yeah.
Chris Conley was on Chaser Chat, and he shared the story of what happened the night that the Mayfield tornado occurred, and his experience basically being just outside of the town and trying to warn people in like local gas stations and stuff like that, and just his recounting of exactly what you talked about. 2 minutes out, 1 minute out, 30 seconds
Yep.
out, and you can hear it, and the wind starts to pick up, and you see it on radar, but you can't actually get a visual on it because of the terrain, and you know that in 60 seconds this whole place is just going to get laid to waste, and if it shifts just a little bit to the north while you're in the notch, you're gone,
Yep.
and you're not going to see it until it's on top of you. And so
Yep.
I can understand why the adrenaline junkie and a lot of people would absolutely enjoy chasing like that. But you're right, absolutely have to give it the respect it deserves. 100%.
Yep.
All right, so Jen, this one, she asks, does Xenia get a lot of tornadoes? I'm going to generalize that to just the, we'll call it western slash southwestern portion of Ohio. And yeah, I think actually
Yes.
you can get quite a few tornado events out
Yes.
there in between like the Dayton and Cincinnati area.
Yeah, absolutely. All you got to do is take a look back at the 1974 outbreak, the F5 that happened there. Yeah, there now is it as many tornadoes as Mississippi and Alabama and Oklahoma and Texas? No, but there can still be violent and significant tornadoes out there for sure.
Anna, our community manager, wants to know, Brad, will you be at the summit?
I don't think I'm going this year. I was there last year. I was there doing sponsored stuff. I don't think I will be there this year though.
Jen Kushner back once again and wants to know, she I think she called Trey Traymond, which is really funny. I'm all for any kind of poking fun at Trey. He's a good sport, and we love him. She says, I know Traymond says to use OBS data while chasing. I didn't know if models were still useful on the day of. I think if I remember correctly, Brad, you had said 9 or 10 o'clock in the morning is pretty much your
Yeah.
last shot using the models.
Yeah. Typically, it's everything with just me with how I chase, and it seemed to work for me in the past. Is typically before noon. I'll look at models before noon, but afternoon, I do not look at models anymore. Just because the environment isn't going to change that drastically on the models, so you're really looking at the mesoscale stuff, at the observations and satellite.
And then last question from a Chaser Academy subscriber. Jen also wants to know if you have been to Culver's, a fitting question since we talked about a few other local spots earlier.
I have, and we are actually getting a Culver's by my house, and I'm super excited. I love their burgers are incredible, but I go for the cheese curds, 100%.
Oh my God, yeah, the cheese curds are legendary.
Oh yeah,
Absolutely legendary.
absolutely. Yeah.
All right. Well, that is all of the Chaser Academy subscriber questions. We do have some questions from all of the regular Discord members. They have been getting backed up here since we had enough Academy questions for the entire time. So I was thinking, Brad, if you wouldn't mind, let's go lightning round on all these questions real quick. And
Let's do it.
I'm just going to say real quick, Wyatt Marshall, I see that you requested to speak. Not going to bring anyone up on the stage for the lightning round, but if you want to get that question in the chat real quick, Anna, keep a lookout for it, throw it in the document, and I'll have Brad give you a lightning round answer. All right. Brad, Sean Voies Olson, I think is how you pronounce that. What does a chase morning look like for you? What are you eyeing? Meso analysis, model markers, if any. What's the thing that you're most focused on?
Wake up in the morning. I typically will get breakfast. I'll sleep in a little bit because I know if it's going to be a long night or not. First thing I do, I take a look at models. Take a look at HRRR, the RRFS. All the cams. Take a look at those. Make sure that they didn't change overnight, and then I immediately take a look at satellite to see if we got any boundaries. take a look at observations, and then just make sure that we're set up for the day. Make sure try to figure out an area with road networks plus terrain, and then typically just rock and roll from there.
An anonymous member wants to know, what is your opinion on clouds?
Clouds?
Just clouds in
I
general.
like
There we go.
I like the spinny kinds.
Big fan, would recommend, right?
Big fan. Yeah, 5-star review.
Mod Slayer 99. My moving day is this Thursday, and it's supposed to rain in North Texas. What time is it expected to rain, and for how? All right, get out of here. This is why we put all the Chaser Academy subscriber questions first, you freaking trolls. All right. Extreme weather. Do you wish that radar programs had a countdown timer to show when it would next refresh? Oh, that's an interesting idea.
I do. I wish they would. Yeah, that's a great idea. I absolutely do. And I wish there were more radars. It's not that expensive. Not that expensive for our government, but it would be expensive for me. But 6 figures for our government's nothing. So, but that would be interesting. Yeah, I would love that.
I was getting worried a year ago when that guy was going out and committing vigilante acts of violence against Doppler radars.
Because the National Weather Service is cloud seeding and chemtrails and that's interesting.
It's funny because even if that were true, the cure would be worse than the disease because all the people that would suffer from not having access to severe weather information.
My question with that would be, why would the government be trying to create these extreme weather events? They're going to kill Americans that are the taxpayers that fund the government.
Brad, you're thinking.
I'm just thinking out of the box here. Okay, all right, moving on. Continue.
Wyatt Marshall, Brad, what would you say helped you network the best as you gained widespread attention in the Chaser community? And as a side question, what further aspirations do you have now as a seasoned storm chaser?
As far as networking goes, just reach out to people. When I first started, I reached out to Brett Adair, who runs Livestorm Media, but he's also a meteorologist and graduated from Mississippi State. I surrounded myself with Charles Peak, who's the Weather Channel with the Weather Channel. He helped me a lot with, how to set up my stream and make it look as professional as possible. I surrounded myself with National Weather Service people, whether it be a National Weather Service in Birmingham or National Weather Service in Norman, Oklahoma. And then you also meet storm chasers out in the field, and which ones are there for that have the same goals that you do. And then just never be afraid to say hey to somebody and reach out and say, hey, I got a question. What do you think about this or something like that? So, and then as far as where we can go from here with the storm chasing, I'm still rolling out a few things. Like I said, this year we rolled out a new rooftop camera where you don't necessarily. I wanted to be able to, because in a live stream, a lot of times you just see my dash camera, and I'll say, just trust me on this. There's a tornado that's to my west. You can't see it, but there's a tornado. And now I can take that rooftop camera that shoots in 1080p and just rotate it over while I'm driving with a joystick, and it points it to it. So that's something that we're adding. I've also added a way where I can live stream my drones immediately. So when I put my drone in the air, it'll connect to the software that I've got on my computer to be able to stream the drone image. And just continuing to grow the YouTube channel, growing it the right way without having to fear or make people scared. Because a lot of things out there will just grow their YouTube channel, their social media page by scaring people, and then that's how they'll get it because they're putting misinformation out there. We're trying to do it the right way. So yeah, that's something that's just something that I'm continuing to work on to make the product better.
Oh yeah, and of course you will be here as a regular contributor at Storm Chaser Coaching. So really excited to give people a chance to interact with you as well, Brad. This has been a ton of fun.
A tour too. I don't know if you want to mention that.
I should probably mention that. That's right.
Yes,
we do have a storm chasing. Okay, thank you, Anna. We do have a storm chasing tour with a few seats still available with Brad. This is, of course, the Extreme Tornado Tour. No promises on any trucks falling from the sky, but it is going to be absolutely insane. So If you contrast it with some of the other tours that are out there, this one is definitely going to be the one that gets you right up close enough to smell the tornado if that's what you're into. So if something like that sounds interesting, you can go to stormchasercoaching.com, click the tours tab at the top of the page, and you'll get more information there.
They're going
Yes,
to be a
sir.
lot of fun. And one
I
more
heard
thing,
Anna's going.
there's a chat member, Mama G, who wants to say hi to Brad.
Oh, Mama G. Okay. Yeah, it's one of my moderators from a YouTube channel. Definitely appreciate all those guys. Hey, Mama G.
Shout out Mama G, Chaser Academy subscriber. You're awesome. We love you.
That we do.
What's a rough ride camera, Brad?
It's a rugged camera, PTZ camera. It's literally made for storm chasers. Now it's not cheap or anything, but it mounts to the top of your car. And you can control it with a keypad. It has defoggers on it. You can control everything with. It's got a windshield wiper on it, so that way when it's raining, you can actually run it like that. It's got LED light on it, so you can point it if you're in a nighttime situation and use it as a spotlight. It's got a lot of different things on it, so it's completely 360. Still playing around with it, still learning everything with it, but we used it this last chase and it worked really well. It's gonna come in handy a lot in the plains, I think. But I'm excited to get back out and use it.
Well, that is the question queue that has been cleared out. Again, Brad, had a lot of fun chatting with you tonight.
Yep, absolutely. Thanks for having me on.
Cool. And everyone, we will be back next week with Aaron J. Jack. That will be Thursday, I believe. I don't know the date off the top of my head, but if you click the events tab, you know what? I'll just click it now.
Yeah, I think you have
Monday, November.
Monday.
Yep, Monday, November 24th with Aaron J. Jack. So we normally would alternate Mondays and Thursdays, but with next week being Thanksgiving, I didn't think it would be a good idea to interrupt people's turkey dinners with Aaron J. Jack. I didn't think they'd appreciate that. So. All right, everyone. Well, I'm going to go ahead and close out the stream here, and I will see you all back in the next one. Take care.